No way! You've gotta be kidding me! They have this too? It's Sim City! Wow! Looks like you really can make any game in Minecraft. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Super Smash Bros. Cinematic Universe Box Office Records. And it has been officially a month that Minecraft has come to theaters. For better or for worse. But let's not dilly-dally, let's take a look at domestic. And gratefully, the millions are starting to slow, with its first non-million on Thursday. Now, Minecraft has reached $398,209,000. Now let's take a look at international. In overseas, a Minecraft movie has $475,200,000. And we can see that on the other side of the pond, that the United Kingdom is providing the most money, with $68,890,577, with Germany and Australia not being far behind. Now it's time to look at worldwide. And would you look at that, a Minecraft movie has reached $873,409,000. And I can tell you right now, 900 is doable. $900 million is doable. Whereas Sonic 3 couldn't reach 490. Oh goody. To switch gears, let's take a look at the newest episode of Secret Level Episode 15, with that special company I was telling you about last time. And I have two parts for you. After that, I'll see you on upcoming films and shows. It's about high time we take a look at another video game company. But this one is special. Because not only are they known for the typical video game fare, but also edutainment. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the history of Brøderbund. It all started in 1979, after Gary Carlston had a hard time getting a job and went to live with his brother Doug in Eugene, Oregon. You see, Doug Carlston was a bit of a programmer and had made a few games for fun to pass the time. He had the idea for a game called Galactic Empire. It was a strategy video game proposed for the TRS-80, aka the TRS-80 microcomputer system, which was a desktop computer by the Tandy Corporation. It was once sold at Radio Shack, being one of the earliest mass-produced and mass-marketed retail home computers, with 4 to 48 kilobytes of memory. The game that Doug, an attorney, proposed originally was published by Adventure International. But there was a problem. His brother Gary needed a way to pay his rent, not to mention being $9,000 in debt.
Oh no!
So he suggested the idea of pitching finished copies of Galactic Empire to computer stores. This particular game series sparked the idea to create their own company, feeling biased to a name that meant Band of Brothers. Interestingly enough, Doug had a few years in Africa, perhaps because he was wanting to get out of America like his brother, and was beholden to use Swahili and Africans in his video game, which makes it all the more curious why he and his brother settled on a combination of Danish, Dutch, German, and Swedish instead. In a way, they ultimately came up with a word that was a mix of all of them, using the Afrikaans word Brøderbund, which actually means the association of brothers. They gave a little tweak to the spelling to be unique, and the result was Brøderbund. To make the name even more unique, they put in the O from the Dano-Norwegian alphabet, which doubled as a nod to slashed zeros on mainframes, terminals, and early personal computers. On their logo, they also have a reference to the lesser national coat of arms from Sweden via the 3 crowns you see on top. But before this name could be established, they had to sell some games, which is what Gary had to do. He managed to sell about $300 of games over the phone, though into 1980, he was only able to sell about $600 more. He even sold these games door to door, finding driving to video game stores a bit of a hassle, which wasn't a huge success at this point. That's when they had the idea of, instead of selling the games, they would give them away as
a free sample
to both journalists and stores to try their product, and this worked to drive sales. Not having to pay a dime to receive merchandise to sell was a pretty good deal, if you ask me. At this point, they were still using paper sleeves and plastic bags, mind you. That was when Gary and Doug came to the West Coast Computer Fair, with games in tow, all in arcade quality. By fate, this fair had put them next door to a Japanese company, StarCraft, whose representatives couldn't speak a word of English. It also had games, which were knockoffs of coin-operated Atari arcade titles. But there was one issue. They all played sideways. So hilariously, the monitors had to be rotated so the game was right side up. The brothers connected with them, and soon, a Nakazawa gives Gary a call, with really broken English, to their office, which is just their apartment, mind you, but they had a TRS-80 and an Apple II. One evening, Nakazawa came over and they chatted about current events, getting along well. But he dropped a truth bomb on the brothers. He knew they weren't a real company, so he gives them a deal that they can distribute their games, now fixed, with rights attached, depending on how many they can make copies of while Nakazawa is still there. They weren't given the masters either. By December 1980, they sold about $100,000 worth of games. By sheer luck, they made business with the most socially awkward businessman who only had one friend growing up, and it was Emperor Hirohito's second son. And they got the deal, apparently, because of Nakazawa seeing a Harvard magazine in the apartment. His peers saw him as silly, a merchant, but he saw himself as upper class. This one moment attracted some great American programmers to their company, mystified by the Japanese games programming. But here's the weirdest thing. The company they made a deal with weren't the ones that made the games. So it was a secondary company showing off the products. And even crazier, this company that was showing off the games went belly up. Something about not paying the game designers properly. However, this experience gave the brothers and other programmers valuable information, such as how to make these games by going to Japan themselves, instead of having to reverse engineer them all the entire time. For a while, they functioned like book publishers, getting an onslaught of outside submissions and getting them out, getting royalties for all of them, with the creators getting editorial feedback for their games and a percentage back. Essentially, they were a product-driven company. But enough of that. This is how Doug's original game was like. Galactic Empire is notable for being considered the first 4X game, as in it corresponded to 4 words that contained the letter X. They were part of a subgenre of strategy games, where players build empires, typically through 4 core gameplay elements that contain the letter X, and they are explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. When you explore, the player can uncover new territories and resources that is often represented by the fog of war or unseen parts of the map. When you expand, you establish new settlements. You expand your territory and build infrastructure to support a growing empire. When you exploit, you utilize your resources to develop your civilization, improve your economy, and strengthen your military. Whereas when you exterminate, you engage in combat with rival factions to eliminate them from the game and secure your dominance. This type of game was before the genre used a lot of graphics, and so it is more text-based. The controls were simple, utilizing one of 4 prompts to progress further into the game, and those were enacted by inputting either A to attack, C to access the computer, E to embark, and O to give orders. In this title, you observe your amount of fighters, transports, scouts, and credits. This game is a user of set coordinates and simple visuals, where you have to give orders to an officer named Bayless that either asks the player to decide between construction, enlistments, or taxation. You have to maintain all 4 of your resources in order to make sure your vessel stays ship shape. There are also other key prompts such as R for return and Q for quit. Starting with one fleet, you begin on your homeworld of Galactica, then spread to other planets to enact taxes after conquering and produce more troops, while taking over other planets. Depending on their technology levels, these new planets may be easier or harder to conquer. You are given 999 years to conquer the entire galaxy, provided you are cryogenically frozen between planets. While Galactic Empire was released first on the TRS-80 in 1979, then the Apple II in 1980, it found itself on Atari 8-bit computers in 1981, and then Mac computers in 1994. As for overall reception, the journalist from the publication The Space Gamer said, "The game provides hours of play, but they can be frustrating and tedious hours. It is too easy to beat the system, and the game cannot be saved." Whereas 80 Micro in 1981 called Galactic Empire one of the best game programs for the TRS-80. The magazine described the game as well designed and fun to play, but this publication stated that it is never dull, as its replayability came from a random map generator, and specifically praised the addition of a save function on its newer versions, considering that a full playthrough of the game could take up to 6 hours. Notably, the Macintosh port was released by Kerry Torkelson with specific permission from Doug Carlston himself. This singular title grew into one of the lesser-known franchises of the Brøderbund lineup, the Galactic Saga. Consisting of Galactic Empire, Galactic Trader, Galactic Revolution, and Tuala's Last Redoubt. We got plenty more to come when it comes to Brøderbund, but I got a few surprises coming down the pike that you're going to love. Some that even surprised me. I just learned I'm going to have to look at a game that I wasn't going to look at for probably years. But it's very important to the whole. And yes, you can see evidence of it in Smash. In fact, I'm going to have to fast track a script after this video is done. But we can be thankful that the next movie is in fact the Super Mario Bros. Movie 2, coming out April 3rd of 2026 by Universal and Illumination, followed by Sonic the Hedgehog 4, coming out March 19th of 2027 by Paramount and Skydance, and then Legend of Zelda movie coming out March 26th of 2027 by Sony and Nintendo, followed by shows, with Secret Level Season 2 on the theoretical, most logical release date of December 2025 of this year by Amazon, followed by films in production with no release date, with Metal Gear Solid by Sony, Detective Pikachu 2 by Warner Brothers, Mega Man by Netflix, Pac-Man by Fox and Wayfarer Studios, and Street Fighter by Sony and Legendary. Last but not least, we have the shows in production with no release date, and we have the live-action Pokemon series featuring Red on Netflix, and we have the Minecraft animated series on Netflix, with no telling the level of quality. And we are done! If you like what you see, press like, subscribe, and smash that bell in order to get notifications on the channel where everything grows on you.